Open. The 29-year-old was scheduled to play in the exhibition alongside Novak Djokovic tomorrow, but he wrote on his Instagram an ultrasound, of course, injury down there, for the man. But from what was seen, I think he's actually looking forward to see how he can bounce back, and see how he can get himself out of that abdominal.
Is anything to go by from what we saw her, him rather publish on his social media account, especially the Twitter, X rather, formerly known as Twitter. I think there is hope because this is a very great year. We've missed him on the court for a quite long time right now. It will be a very impressive one for tennis followers across the globe to also see Kyrgios back on the court out there to see what he brings to the table. But for him to come out to make such bold statement that he's not perturbed, that he's going to be fit for that very one, clearly tells you that he's very serious and he's ready to bounce back in earnest. So for me, I think I'm very happy. I would love to see him and see what he brings to the table once more, because it's been a while. I think the last few weeks, so he's been hogging the headline, maybe for him trying or criticizing rather the position of the International Tennis Integrity Unit, which he faulted their decision not to have bound Iga Swiatek and Yannick Sinner because of their involvement in some doping issues, stuff like that. But ever since then, I think he's been very, very quiet off the court and on the media as well. But just because of that issue of Yannick Sinner, he was speaking very tough. He also heard his voice about his displeasure about the double standard of International Tennis Integrity Unit, where it look as though Yannick Sinner is being given some preferential treatment. He hit so hard on the social media, but I think for me, away from that, I really want to see Kyrgios back on the track to see outside the talking on the social media, can he actually do the walking on the court once more?
Talking about doing the walking on the court, that's actually the big question, Michael. We've seen the likes of Yannick Sinner, Carlos Alcaraz, Medvedev, Alexander Zverev. I think they had a very impressive 2024 coming in at this point in time. For Kyrgios, that have been away for some time, he's even back and he's still battling with injury. Do you think he has what it takes to battle with these other guys?
For me, I can't thoroughly beat my chest and say, yeah, that Kyrgios has what it takes. But we get to see when, he get to play his first competitive game after being away for a very long time. Let's see how he can be able to cope up, with the pressure and challenges of trying to catch up with some of the big names that have also, risen so high to the ladder, likes of Yannick Sinner, Carlos Alcaraz, German Stifo, Tsitsipas, Taylor Fritz. Can he be able to hold his own against some of these big names? It still remains a very big question that he needs to demonstrate on the court out there, because it is, there is one thing about you coming to social media to talk much or to hog the headline for whatever reason, but there is another thing about you being able to prove your worth when it actually matters most. If you can be able to bounce back and compete, I think it would be a nice one. But I can't truly say, that I'm very hopeful that it's going to, make that big comeback, because as it is right now, you are seeing a lot of competition within the ATP and even the WTA as well. So he need to, give more before we can actually say yes. Maybe he stand a chance of competing. But I just want to see him on the court once more. Whether he's able to compete favorably well against some of these big names is a question that he need to answer, but he will answer that on the court. Let's see his level of fitness so far, and that is why I'm very happy that despite the bruises he got while preparing Christmas dishes and all of that in the kitchen, he can just pass over that and see if he can be able to get fit. And I'm very happy that he just made it very clear that there's nothing much to worry about, as he's very hopeful he's going to be fit for the Australian Open.
All right, let's see how this one will pan out. Promises to be an exciting one, and we hope that Kyrgios will bounce back in an impressive fashion this time around. But let's move on as we take a look at the situation of things. Still talking about the ATP and how the players are preparing. There are players that, of course, everyone really have to watch out for when it has to do with preparation ahead of the Australian Open. One is Novak Djokovic. He may be, of course, 37, but the Serbian can never be written off on Melbourne Park Blue Hat Court, where he has enjoyed enormous success. Ranked 7th in the world, Djokovic won Olympic gold in 2024 but failed to collect a major for the first time since 2017, leaving his bid to better Margaret Court's all-time 34 slam titles on field.
The great in the world of tennis, I think for me, it's a great idea for him. And he has conquered, he has won everything needed to be won in the world of tennis. I think the only trophy that was eluding him in the trophy cabinet was the Olympic medal, which he did everything humanly possible to also lay hold on that in the 2024 season and the Paris Olympic game. And of course, you understand that whenever he's always want to make a very big, been missing in his trophy cabinet, which is an Olympic medal, and that is why it was very clear. His intention was very clear about him winning the Olympic medals, and that is why we saw him skipping several championships out there. Had to even take a break while preparing for the Paris Olympic game, just to make sure that he landed that elusive medal, talking about the Olympic trophy in his trophy car. And he did that in a magical fashion. Not just got into the final, but he was able to beat one of the best, and talking about Carlos Alcaraz, and lift that very one. Now he's going for a record 25th Grand Slam. He has decided to deploy the services of Andy Murray, whom he shared in the same court for a very long time. For many years, they were on the opposing side, going head-to-head against each other. Now that Andy Murray have resigned, he deemed it already to work perfectly well. And at this point, Jannik Sinner need to be very wary, because Novak Djokovic, when he set out a goal and he wants to achieve it, he does everything humanly possible to get that. No wonder I'm not surprised, rather, where he was able to deploy the services of Andy Murray, because he wants to get to the next level, which for me I think is going to be an enormous task. But is it achievable? Of course, yes.
Of course, let's see how this one will go. If Djokovic gets this one, it will be his 100th career title, just the third man in the Open era to reach the milestone behind Jimmy Connors, who has 109, and Roger Federer, who has 103. The second man, of course, everyone needs to look out for this time is Jannik Sinner. The Italian won his maiden Grand Slam title in Australia last year, beating Daniil Medvedev in the final, and went on to establish himself as the undisputed world #1. He won 8 titles in 2024, including his second major at the US Open, while making the semis at Roland Garros and Wimbledon. Michael, this is the world #1. And the man seems unstoppable despite all that happened to him last year. We're actually ahead of the doping issue and how some tennis players are not happy due to the treatment being given to him and all of that. But the man is still standing strong and looking very much favorite as well for this particular one. Do you see him outclassing the rest of the players?
For me, there are still some question marks, issue hanging around Jannik Sinner, winning 8 major trophy last season. Of course, so many persons have said, okay, if actually the tennis integrity unit is able to take the case or the references that some players are making, alluding to the fact that it looks as though he's been given some preferential treatment. If they are to take that case very serious, I will tell you one thing, which is that there are some trophy that will be retrieved from him if that case is taken seriously. Don't forget that WADA is also very ready. They are not letting down on this very issue. They are also, making every effort available to ensure that they get to the end of this. And you know what that means? That if he get to be convicted, if he gets, to find out that indeed
he's found guilty.
He is found guilty, which for me, he has been found guilty, because last year, after the case came in, we saw him being banned for some weeks, and some money was also retrieved from him. Well, what about the trophy that he won? Including that very money. These are the questions, these are the issues. You let him go. He did not just test positive once, but twice in a year. And we call for a very big question mark on the tennis integrity unit. That is why I'm saying that I'm still very skeptical about the trophies that Jannik Sinner won last season. If the WADA pushes this case and it got to a climax where he's found guilty, which he has been found guilty, But if they are to take it more serious, I think some of these trophies that he won 2024 will actually be retrieved from him. Then he will get some sanction, maybe some ban, some months or years ban. Then some money as well will be deducted. Some of his points as well will be deducted. These are the issues. So for me, I can't truly beat my chest and say, yes, Yannick Sinner is very ready for this year until the case that is surrounding around him is done and dusted, and is able to squash that case and focus. Then I can truly say that he may have a very great season. Though we've seen of him being mentally strong out there since last season, during the course of this case that is surrounding him, he was not deterred. He was still winning, some championship out there, still, staying as the world #1. But this time around, he needs a lot of mental stability as well. If this case continues to come up, to be able to push very strong and make his name continue to reign. But I tell you, last season was very impressive for him. But can he actually translate the form of last season with this doping issue that he's actually facing for the year 2025? Wait to see.
Let's see how it goes, of course, for Yannick Sinner. We hope he get things, done this time around. Of course, if you look at it, he's already the favorite, but we don't have to crown him at this point when the competition gets started, and then we'll know. But away from that, Carlos Alcaraz, still at just 21. The Spaniard already owns 4 Grand Slam titles, including the French Open and Wimbledon last year, securing both since boasting on the scene with victory at the US Open in 2022. But he is yet to go beyond the quarterfinals in Melbourne on his 3 previous visits, crashing in the last 8 in 2024 to Alexander Zverev, already the youngest man to claim majors on all 3 surfaces, clay, hard, and grass. He will surpass compatriot Rafael Nadal as the youngest as he completes a career Grand Slam should he triumph in Australia. A lot, of course, await Carlos Alcaraz, but last season, I think to the end of the season wasn't really a fantastic one for him. I don't know what you make of it. Do you see Alcaraz bouncing back in a very impressive fashion this January?
Last season wasn't just generally a good season for Carlos Alcaraz, because many times you expect him to do that unthinkable by pushing himself to the top out there. He actually disappoints. He's very inconsistent in terms of his performance. I think we saw the best of Carlos Alcaraz in 2022. Ever since then, he has been fluctuating in his performances out there, and that is why I'm saying that I can't actually guarantee of his form for the year 2025. But I think if he has been able to learn 1 or 2 lessons from last year's dismal performance, from my own assessment in his performance, then I think we might say, yeah, he stands a very good chance of also competing very high with the likes of Yannick Sinner, the likes of, maybe Novak Djokovic or any other player that 24. But I tell you, he still remains one of the youngest gems that people are looking up to. In fact, before Yannick Sinner burst into the scene to begin to make the mark, he was more like the poster boy of the new age of tennis, talking about Carlos Alcaraz. But inconsistency has made him to look as though he's taking the back seat right now, allowing Yannick Sinner to come to the front for where he was able to dethrone Novak Djokovic and continue to reign supreme as the world #1. But like I said, if he has learned 1 or 2 lessons for last season performance, then I expect him to also build on the positive of what he learned last season heading into this year 2025.
All right, let's hope that Yannick Sinner, of course, will live up to expectation, finishing runner-up at the French Open in 2024 and the US Open in 2020, but unable to take the final step after suffering an ankle injury in the semi-final of the Roland Garros in 2022. His return to the top was slow. A 2-time semi-finalist in Australia, including last year when he lost to Daniil Medvedev. Zverev knows he needed to win majors this time around, and for me, he was one of was one of the players that put up a very huge surprise for me. Finished the season as world #2. That was a very huge leap, for Alexander Zverev.
Of course, a very huge leap for him out there, but you need to also land for yourself major trophies. That is the only way you cap your season, in a very good fashion. Despite the fact that we saw him, plummeting to the world ranking to a very respectable position, but then he need to also show that substantial proof that indeed this is what I'm able to win for the year 2024 or the year 2025. And courtesy of this, he has also helped me to project me to a better ranking on the table out there. So for me, he had a very good season, but then without any serious trophy to show for it. Will I say that it's a total good season for him? Maybe or maybe not, but then everyone knows that before you can be classified as the great, before you can be reckoned for what you do, you must have something tangible, to show for it.
Number two.
He's world number 2, no doubt, but then he must prove it with some good trophies out there. He had a very good 2024 season, no doubt, but then what are the trophies that he won? When you talk about the Yannick Sinner, he's maintaining world number 1. You can roll out his trophy, the trophies that he won for last season, and you cannot have any doubt and say, okay, he truly deserves to be that number 1. But I expect him this year, to actually go above what he did for the year 2024 and actually, cement his good performance this season. Djokovic to give Yannick Sinner a good run for his money, because it looks as though Yannick Sinner is just sitting there at the top, solitary, without any challenge. If you take a look at the point disparity between Yannick Sinner and Zverev, who is seated second, is far. The point is clear. And for me, I think these two players, they need to up their ante so that to close in the gap.
All right, that's the situation of things, and we hope that Zverev, of course, will step up his game this season more than what we saw last season. But let's take a look at Daniil Medvedev this time. The 50 Russian failed to win a title last year, but has often done well after the opening Grand Slam of the year, reaching 3 of the last 4 finals. He was outplayed by Djokovic in 2021 before he had wrenching defeat to Rafa Nadal a year later. Then with Sinner and Alcaraz starting to dominate, the 28-year-old admitted in the off-season that he must reinvent himself, reducing the error counts and becoming more aggressive. So this is, will I say, the resolution of Daniil Medvedev for 2025. Do you see this one coming to reality, being aggressive this time on the court?
For me, I wouldn't take him serious, because he's been consistently inconsistent. In the last 2 years down the line right now, he's been consistently inconsistent. And, taking his game to more aggressive format this season or this 2025, I don't know how that is going to help him. But then, if that is his resolution, fine for him. If that is the only way he can be able to win major laurels for the year 2025, it's going to be a good one for him. But like I said, having watched him closely in the last 2 years down the line, he has been very poor. That is my assessment of him. But if that is the resolution, that this is what he wants to do this season, to actually, land some major trophy for himself, it's going to be a very good one if it actually works out for him. But like I will always say, I do not trust him.
Let's see how it goes. We look forward to see how these players, of course, will perform at the end of the day. Who get this one? Will it be Novak Djokovic? Will it be Yannick Sinner, Carlos Alcaraz, Alexander Zverev, Daniil Medvedev? Who get this one? We'll also take a look at the female category in a subsequent edition before the weekend to see how these players, of course, are preparing for the big one that comes up this weekend, talking about the Australian Open. We'll take a break now, and we'll come back from the break. We'll dash straight to the beautiful world of football, where we'll take a look at some exciting, stories coming from football down here in Nigeria. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Every day, our lives are changed by history.
We are one people, all of us.
Leaders, politics.
Nobody's ambition is what
I have fought very firmly.
Natural occurrence, war, and the world economy.
I belong to everybody, and I belong to nobody.
ATN covers it all on ATN Politics today.
From the lines across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring all the sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economic, sports, and documentaries. So catch all your bits on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
They have 27 points, while the league, Remo Stars has about 36 points, and they still have 2 outstanding games. So invariably, if they get to win that 2 outstanding games, they will be on 33 points then, meaning they are 3 points, below the league leader. So they still have a very good chance to fight for the league. But then I think I'm happy with the way Stanley Eguma has actually started, out there in Enyimba.
All right, we have a Port Harcourt sports veteran, Mr. Peter Abaji, joining us this evening. Good evening to you, Mr. Abaji.
Yes, good evening to you, Kingsley Emmanuel.
All right, let's quickly move on as we take a look at the appointment of a new Super Eagles coach. We understand that Eric Chelle is now the new Super Eagles coach at the stand. First of all, what do you make of his appointment?
Well, I think it is a good one. We've been clamoring for a foreign coach for the Super Eagles of Nigeria. However, we would have loved to see a mainstream European being engaged as coach of the Super Eagles of Nigeria. But again, if this is what we need to take football in the country to the next level, talking about the senior national team, so be it. I'm very optimistic that yes, Eric has what it takes to move the Super Eagles of Nigeria up the ladder. Most soccer-loving fans of the country might not be too comfortable with the latest development, but again, the Nigeria Football Federation, this is the best they can offer for now. We've talked about world-class coaches here and there, but truth be told, the NFF at the moment does not have what it takes to attract a world-class coach, a top-class coach to the Super Eagles of Nigeria because of the history of backlog of salary and wages to our previous and national team handlers. So what we have today is something that they believe they can comfortably part with on a monthly basis. It's 5 million naira monthly salary with 2 assistants that Eric will be bringing into Nigeria. The most important thing right now is for every player that he will invite to play for Nigeria should bring in their A game to the table. The same performance we see them putting for their respective club sides in their respective club sides in Europe week in, week out is what I expect them to bring to the table. We've seen players play under Altine Guavon and other Finidi George, and you begin to ask yourself, are these players truly first 11 players for their respective club sides there in Europe? Because what we see these players put in for their respective club sides is not what we see them put in when they play for the Super Eagles of Nigeria. So for me, yes, he's a Malian coach. It does not matter the color of his skin. After all, Stephen Keshi was once coach of the Eagles of Mali. We've seen Nigerians manage other African and national team years ago. So I would say that Eric will not be a huge success. But for Eric to succeed, he needs to introduce his own style of play to the Super Eagles of Nigeria. It needs to get players that he strongly believes will play the way he wants them to play, move the way he wants them to move in the field of play. And if the players respect him and give him the necessary support, I see him succeeding as coach of the Super Eagles of Nigeria. Don't forget that he also will make a name for himself. Where foreign coaches failed, he wants to succeed. Where local coaches failed, he wants to succeed. And he wants to use the Super Eagles of Nigeria as a system to bigger things for him in the world of soccer.
All right, impressive one. But talking about, succeeding, do you
think that before the kick ball, and I'm sure the Super Eagles of Nigeria will be one step closer to booking the ticket from their group.
All right, let's quickly move on. What do you make of it? We hear the man will be paid about 55,000 US dollars. That's about 85 million naira if you check that, every month. What do you make of his salary?
It is within range for the Nigeria Football Federation. Excuse me. Into what they are confident of paying every month. I don't want a situation whereby in another 2-3 months we hear that the coach has not received his salary for last month or for 2 months ago. This will certainly be demoralizing. A coach who has come to work, who wants to settle down to work, and his wage bill does not come as and when due, it will certainly affect his mental approach to thinking out how to secure victories or a workable or functional style of play for the national team. It's 5 million naira is not really a big for a foreign coach. How much was the salary of Inedi George? How much was the salary of Austin Oguavoen? The number of games that he managed the team before is going back to his office as technical director of the Nigeria Football Federation. I think if he equates this with what his counterparts in other part of Africa and Europe ends, you will agree with me that it's a far cry compared to what super powers in football pay their coaches at the end of the month. I strongly believe that yes, this is going to be work in progress. Let's start from somewhere. You cannot get to the lintel level of building without laying the foundation first. So if this is going to be the foundation for him to bounce back to reckoning, not just for himself, but for black coaches on the continent of Africa, then I expect him to settle down to work and ensure that, yes, NFF pay him as and when due, and let's wait that the guy will get the desired results for us. If he doesn't, yes, the usual thing is to fire a coach who doesn't get the desired result. He has told his employers, I want to believe, that he has what it takes to get the 2026 for Nigeria. And also, he has also told his employers, yes, he has what it takes to move football in the country to the next level. The question we should be asking ourselves is, at the last Nations Cup finals in Cote d'Ivoire, where his team lost to the Elephant of Cote d'Ivoire, how was their play? How were they transiting from the defense line to the midfield to the attack? What was the movement of his players like on and off the ball? If we are impressed with how the Eagles of Mali played at the last Nations Cup finals, then we should thinking of something better from Eric with the Super Eagles of Nigeria. It's 5 million. It's good pay by all standards because yes, if he had rated himself with the best in the world, then he would have turned down its 5 billion naira monthly salary from the Nigeria Football Federation. But like I said earlier, he wants to use this appointment as a launch pad to reckoning in the days to come, weeks to come, months to come, and years to come.
Michael, I don't know if you agree with Mr. Abaje. He said that he's optimistic that Eric Chile will succeed with the Super Eagles of Nigeria.
Well, for me, as a Super Eagles follower and a Nigerian, I should be also optimistic, but at the same point, I've been optimistic. The reality is that, is it the right kind of coach that the Super Eagles need at this point in time? Taking a look at the dicey situation that we find ourselves in the World Cup qualifying, you may want to say, yeah, he got the experience, and he's still very young at 47. Mr. Badger talked about his transitional form of play, talked about the attacking intent which we saw in the last African Cup of Nations. Good. Nice one. But then it goes beyond that. The Super Eagles football is actually making that wave. Maybe they are going to bring that same aura down to the Super Eagles. But for such a coach that doesn't have that coaching experience, we just saw him at the African Cup of Nations. You can't use that as the only yardstick to say, okay, this is the right coach for the Super Eagles. It's going to take him time to be able to, get acquainted with the players, to get to know the cultures of the national team, because